So, picture this, it's 2025 and President Trump is back in the White House ready for round two. And you know what's high on the agenda? Civil rights. But maybe not in the way you'd expect, like a big group hug. It's more like a redecorating, a complete overhaul. The administration has wasted no time in rolling out a series of policy changes that are fundamentally reshaping the landscape of civil rights in America. We're talking about a significant pivot, a bold new direction that aims to redefine what terms like equality and opportunity mean within the federal government and beyond. It's a shakeup, folks, and it's happening fast, with executive orders flying out like free samples at a very specific, very policy-oriented Costco. First up on the chopping block, or should I say the restoration block, are those diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, DEI for short, you've heard of them. President Trump signed Executive Order 14173, titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Who doesn't want merit-based opportunity? But the fine print is where it gets interesting. This order effectively rescinded previous mandates. These mandates required federal contractors to actively work to prevent discrimination. This covered race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. Suddenly the rulebook for these contractors looks a whole lot different, a bit thinner perhaps. The core of Executive Order 14173, and this is a big one, was the outright prohibition of DEI programs within federal employment. Think about all those training sessions, the initiatives aimed at diversifying the workforce, the efforts to create a more inclusive environment. This order put a stop to them. The rationale given is that these programs themselves can be discriminatory, or that they detract from a pure, untainted meritocracy. So the idea is to strip away these layers and get back to basics, where hiring and promotion are supposedly based solely on individual qualifications and performance, without any of that pesky DEI stuff getting in the way. It's a bold statement about the nature of fairness. And just in case anyone missed the memo, along came Executive Order 14151, Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. This one really doubled down. It wasn't just about ending some programs, it was about eliminating DEI initiatives across all federal agencies. The language used, radical and wasteful, gives you a pretty clear idea of the administration's stance. The emphasis, once again, was on a return to merit-based hiring, with the explicit instruction that diversity considerations should not be part of the equation. So, federal agencies are now navigating a new landscape, one where the pursuit of diversity as a goal in itself is officially off the table. Now let's talk about the Department of Justice, the place that's supposed to be the nation's top cop for civil rights. Well, things have gotten a bit quiet over there. According to reports from May 2025, the DOJ has effectively hit the pause button on initiating new civil rights cases. Imagine a referee just walking off the field mid-game. Civil rights advocates are, to put it mildly, concerned. They're calling this an unprecedented abdication of the government's fundamental role to protect its citizens from discrimination. It's like the chief lifeguard announcing they're taking an extended nap, right when the no swimming signs are being taken down. This halt raises profound questions about who will champion these crucial cases. It's not just about not starting new things, it's also about how the administration is dealing with those who were involved in civil rights work. The Trump administration has reportedly taken action against some major U.S. law firms. The accusation? That these firms were politicizing the legal system. Now, that's a serious charge. The consequences for some of these firms have been pretty severe, including having their security clearances revoked and federal contracts canceled. This led to legal battles, of course, and some settlements have apparently involved these firms agreeing to modify their own DEI policies. So, the message seems to be, get with the new program or face the consequences. The Department of Justice has also reportedly stopped pursuing other types of civil rights litigation. This includes important police reform cases, which have been a major focus for years. So, where are all those government lawyers going? Well, it seems many have been redirected to focus on immigration enforcement. This reallocation of resources is stark. Reports suggest that a significant portion, around 70% of DOJ lawyers in the Civil Rights Division have either left, resigned, been reassigned, or were forced out. That's a massive brain drain from a division specifically tasked with upholding civil rights. It's a fundamental shift in priorities for the department. And it's not just the Justice Department feeling the squeeze. Over at the Department of Education, the Office for Civil Rights, OCR, is also undergoing some pretty dramatic changes. This is the office that's supposed to make sure schools aren't discriminating against students, but it's hard to do that when your staff is shrinking. Reports indicate significant staffing reductions, with at least 120 employees terminated or placed on administrative leave. For those who remain, the instructions are apparently to cease most work. This includes halting investigations into potential civil rights violations in schools. This has naturally raised serious concerns about the enforcement of anti-discrimination laws in our education system. The administration's new approach isn't just about what happens within federal agencies, it's also very visible at the border and in immigration policy. In March 2025, something quite old was dusted off and put to new use: the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Yes, 1798. This act was invoked to detain and deport over 200 Venezuelan citizens. The administration alleged these individuals had affiliations with a criminal group called Tren de Aragua. However, reports suggest that evidence for these affiliations wasn't provided publicly, which raises a lot of questions about the process and the basis for these serious actions against individuals seeking refuge or a new life. The use of this centuries-old act has drawn sharp criticism, especially regarding due process or the lack thereof. Among those deported was Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, a gay Venezuelan asylum seeker. His case and others highlight concerns that these actions are bypassing established legal procedures. Critics argue that individuals are being targeted and removed without adequate review, and in some cases, without having any criminal records in the United States. The focus seems to be on swift removal, using whatever legal tools are available, even if they're from a bygone era. Furthermore, local patrol officers are now being deputized as immigration agents, blurring lines and straining local resources. Beyond these immediate actions, there's a much larger, more comprehensive plan in play, often referred to as Project 2025. This isn't just a catchy name, it's a detailed policy agenda, a sort of playbook, supported by the Trump administration. Its stated goal is to fundamentally reshape the federal government, and a big part of that involves civil rights policies. Think of it as the architectural blueprint for the administration's long-term vision. It's not just about tweaking a few rules here and there, it's about a systematic overhaul of how civil rights are understood and enforced at the federal level, aiming for a significant departure from previous approaches. So what's in this Project 2025 blueprint when it comes to civil rights? Some of the key proposals are pretty far-reaching. For instance, it suggests eliminating the use of disparate impact analysis in civil rights enforcement. Disparate impact is a legal idea that a policy can be discriminatory if it harms a particular group more than others, even if it doesn't explicitly mention that group. Project 2025 also aims to reduce the enforcement powers of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, the very agency tasked with fighting workplace discrimination. And perhaps not surprisingly, it calls for the dismantling of affirmative action programs, continuing a trend we've seen. Naturally, these sweeping changes haven't gone unnoticed or unchallenged. Civil rights organizations, groups like the NAACP, are sounding the alarm, and they're sounding it loudly. They warn that these policies, from the executive orders to the broader aims of Project 2025, threaten to unwind decades of hard-won civil rights progress. Their concern is that these changes will disproportionately harm marginalized communities, the very people civil rights laws were designed to protect. It's a fear that the clock is being turned back, creating a tougher environment for those who already face systemic barriers to equality and opportunity in American society. The administration's focus also extends significantly to policing. In late April 2025, President Trump issued an executive order designed to expand federal power over local and state police forces. This is a big shift. The administration's policies are openly embracing mass incarceration, evidenced by expanded funding and robust support for police departments and prison systems. It's a tough-on-crime stance, amplified. There's a promise of legal resources and indemnification for officers who are accused of misconduct or police brutality. This essentially means more protection for officers, even when their actions are questioned, potentially making accountability harder to achieve. Furthermore, the administration is targeting state or local officials who attempt to hold law enforcement accountable. This creates a chilling effect for those seeking police reform at a local level. Federal resources, including controversially the military, are being mobilized to fight domestic crime. This militarization of domestic law enforcement raises serious concerns, particularly about the potential for racially discriminatory policing practices. Critics point out that such approaches often lead to lower rates of solving actual crimes, don't necessarily make policing more effective, and almost certainly strain trust between communities and the police who are supposed to serve them. It's a cycle that many fear will worsen. In the face of reduced federal civil rights enforcement, and with agencies like the EEOC facing federal funding cuts, an interesting counter-trend is emerging. Some states are stepping up. They are increasing their own civil rights enforcement budgets and launching new initiatives to fill the void left by the federal government. This is leading to a kind of patchwork quilt of civil rights protections across the country. Depending on where you live, your rights and the mechanisms to protect them could look very different. The potential long-term impacts on marginalized communities are significant, as consistent nationwide protection gives way to a more fragmented and uncertain landscape. It's a developing story, with the future of civil rights looking quite different than it did just a short while ago.